Have you ever been in that spot where you just know you're right, but you can't seem to get anyone to actually hear you? Well, we're going to dive into a story about a project manager who is facing a massive career-defining problem. And he discovered the solution wasn't some new strategy or a piece of tech. Nope, it was a single, perfectly crafted sentence. Meet Cassiano Canhetti. He's a project manager, and let me tell you, he was up against it. This wasn't just another tough project. In his own words, this was, by far, the most complicated thing he had ever tackled in his entire life. So what was the deal? What made this thing so incredibly complex? Well, it all came down to the way it was built, like a giant, tangled web of tasks and teams that were all connected. Get this. Cassiano's team was trying to manage 16 different external dependencies. And what does that mean? It means that to get pretty much anything done, they had to wait on 16 other teams to do their part first. Now, you might think 16 is the big scary number here, but that wasn't even the real issue. The real nightmare was that all these dependencies were interconnected. It was like a giant set of dominoes. If one team was late, it could set off a chain reaction and bring the entire project to a screeching halt. Just to give you an idea, to finish one single task, Cassiano's team needed help from 3 different teams. But here's the kicker. Those same 3 teams were also the bottleneck for a bunch of other tasks. So everything was just stuck. It was a total logistical nightmare. And if that tangled mess of a project wasn't enough, there was also this intense, high-pressure reporting schedule that put Cassiano and his team's work directly under the corporate microscope. Every 2 weeks, like clockwork, he had to get up in front of a big crowd and give a formal update on how this incredibly complicated project was going. Talk about pressure. There was absolutely nowhere to hide. And who was in this crowd? Oh, not just his boss. We're talking about a room with more than 40 people. And they weren't just anybody. They were all directors and major stakeholders from all over the company. And yeah, as Cassiano put it himself, that kind of situation makes you nervous. I mean, can you blame him? Having to face down that many powerful people, especially when you're dealing with delays and roadblocks, it's rough. And here's why the pressure was so insane. In a company with 5,000 employees, this wasn't just some project on the back burner. This was the project. The single most anticipated, most watched initiative of the entire year. The expectations? Absolutely through the roof. So, with the stakes this high, Cassiano knew he had to figure out what was really going on. What was the root cause of all these problems? It wasn't the software. It wasn't even just the dependencies. It was something way more basic. So he's digging in, trying to get to the bottom of it, and then it hits him. The biggest thing holding everything back, the true constraint, wasn't technical at all. It was all about resources. The problem was a lack of bandwidth. And no, we're not talking about internet speed here. In project management speak, bandwidth is just jargon for manpower. People! His team simply did not have enough people to do the work. But here's the really crucial part. Cassiano felt like he'd been saying this all along. He'd been trying to raise the alarm, but the message just wasn't getting through. And that's when he realized the problem wasn't what he was saying, it was how he was saying it. This is where a tiny little grammar lesson changed everything. The whole key to cracking this problem wide open was hiding in the way we talk about time. Specifically, the difference between describing something that's happening right now versus something that's been happening for a while. Now, you see this slide here, right? It's about active and passive voice. Who's doing the action. But Cassiano's light bulb moment was even more subtle than that. It wasn't just about who was acting, but for how long they'd been acting. He had to show them this problem wasn't new, it was continuous. So, armed with this simple but powerful insight, he was finally ready. He was going to reframe his entire message to those 40 stakeholders, and it was all going to build up to one perfect sentence. The challenge was clear. How do you get a room full of busy directors to understand that your problem, the manpower shortage, isn't a brand new excuse you just came up with? How do you show them it's been the reality from day one? And this is where the magic happens. It's so simple. If you say, we are working with 11 developers, you're just describing this very moment. It's a snapshot. But if you say, we have been working with 11 developers, everything changes. That little phrase connects the past to the present. It tells a whole story. It says this isn't a today problem, this has been our reality all along. And the numbers didn't lie. The data backed him up completely. The team had 11 developers on hand, but the original plan, the one everybody signed off on, said they needed 15 to get the job done on time. And there it is, the perfect sentence. So simple, right? But it's brilliant. It's not an accusation, it's not an excuse, it's just a calm, clear statement of a fact that has persisted over time. We have been working with 11 developers, sets the history, when we should have been working with 15, highlights the gap between the plan and the reality. It says everything that needs to be said without any of the drama. So what's the big lesson here? Sometimes the most powerful tool you have for solving a really complex problem isn't some new software or a bigger budget. Sometimes it's just a better sentence, one that completely reframes the entire conversation. Which really makes you wonder, doesn't it? For the biggest challenge that you're facing right now, what's the one perfect sentence that could change everything?